They say that if you own your story, no one can use it against you. And here I am, talking about all the things I used to be ashamed of. This week, we go from my hair journey to baby daddy drama to healing in public. Ever since I started this, nothing has been off limits, especially not my past. And even back then, when I was completely unhealed, I was still the light. Let's talk about it. Hey guys, and welcome to episode 14 of the Life Vetted podcast. Thank you for being here and thank you for tuning in. Hey everyone, what's up? I am so glad to be back in front of the camera. I have missed you guys. I know you see that there's a little bit of a change in my hair. We're definitely gonna get into that. I had to take a break last week because I was exhausted and I had crazy cramps. I felt so awful. I spent all day in bed. It was the first day of my period, going into the second day because I got it in the afternoon, and I was just feeling awful. I had the most terrible cramps. I just woke up in the morning and I wanted to film, but I just couldn't do it. I could not do it. My body was glued to that bed. I had hair in a bun. I had my heat pad on my, lower stomach. Like it was not a good day. So I apologize for not recording an episode last week and you guys had to wait a whole week, but thank you for being here. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I just needed to really listen to my body that day and I just couldn't. I stayed in bed. I watched TV and Netflix all day. I had an afternoon nap. I mean, it was a whole thing. I was excited because I knew that since I didn't film that day, that by the next time that I did film, my hair would be different because I made an appointment, by like 5 days after to get my hair dyed. And so you're probably asking yourself, why? Why would she do that? I had a little bit of a phase there, probably for in total, it was 3 years, I think, because I started really getting highlights and doing a balayage to my hair and all of that right after, very soon after becoming single, I would say. I think it was maybe a year into that, or six months to a year for sure. I started getting highlights and balayage in my hair, and at that time it was really in to have icy blonde hair, so I was getting this icy blonde balayage, and then I had that for about a year, and then 2 years ago, I think. Yeah, 2 years ago, because we're in 2025, so I think it was 2023 I started doing the copper. The copper was really in. The cowboy copper was really in. And I started doing that to my hair. And, as women, some girls can probably relate to this. For me, putting on makeup, doing my hair, dressing up nice, it's almost like armor. It's almost like protection from the world. When I put on an outfit and I do my hair and I do my makeup, I am putting on my armor to face the world almost. I feel more confident depending on what I'm wearing. It gives me a different energy. I might be wearing a certain suit or a certain outfit that make me feel more sexier or more like boss. Like it depends, right? And so I think I went through that with my hair. I I really did a big change with my hair more than I've ever done. I think in my early 20s I dyed my hair like just one color, like all red or like all or black. I went through a phase where I had like black. And it all those transitions, like I always remember the chapter in my life I was in, like depending on like my hair color almost. And so I hadn't dyed my hair in a really long time. When I had like since I had my daughter, I didn't hadn't really like dyed it any color or done anything to it. I just kind of always wore my natural hair color. And then, you know, after my separation, I started doing like little highlights, and then I got, like I said, the copper. And so that hair, that copper cowboy hair that I had, it really got me through some of the toughest times. It really made me just really confident, even at moments where I wasn't confident, and even at moments in my life during that period that I really didn't know what was going to happen or where I was going to go or what I was going to do. The hair just kept me like feeling good. Every time I told my stylist, I was like, man, you don't know how much I love my hair. Like, my hair, I loved it so much that I would like literally wash it. Like, I was like engaged with my hair. I was excited to blow dry it. I was excited to style it. It really got me out of a funk, just having my hair that hair color. It was armor. It really was this phase that made me more confident and more sure about myself, and it was a really good phase. And I did a lot, and I've done so much healing in these last 4 years of my life. I've grown so much. I'm like a completely different person. And part of the healing that I've done is really loving myself and loving my body and loving me for me. And so I had to say goodbye to the cowboy copper. I I had dyed it like this kind of cherry brown, but and I only had that just for a couple months. I dyed it this like cherry brown, but that didn't last because as soon as the roots started to grow out, I just looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, I think I'm just gonna go back to my natural hair color. Why not? Like I feel like the color in my hair had done its job, and that journey had done what it needed to do for me. And now I feel like I feel fine and comfortable and happy, and I feel pretty within my own self, that I don't need that armor anymore, if that makes sense. And I know it probably on camera, it kind of reads black, but it's not black. It's like just my natural hair color is just like a dark brown. My natural hair color is a little more ashy than like warm, but I just told her to match like these extensions that I have that are pretty close to kind of like my natural color. So it's just like a dark brown. And I know it might not look like that in the camera, but it is. It's just like this dark brown. And so as my hair grows, and like my roots will come in, like I won't even notice it too much because the difference is not that big. And so I feel like I have gone through this whole cycle to where I wanted to go back to me and just my color and how I naturally look. No highlights, no nothing, just my hair. I'm honestly I might put in some extensions, like some permanent extensions, because I do like my hair to be like full. But I think that this is it. I think this is where we are going to remain for a while, a long, long while, until my hair is fully gray or something like that. I think this is where I'm at. I feel like myself with my dark brown hair. Like I feel just like me, like when I had the cowboy copper and when I had like the icy blonde highlights, I felt it's not that I didn't feel like myself, but I felt almost like I was playing a bit of a character because I was going through this healing and I was going through this time of my life where certain things weren't sure. I was in limbo a little bit, and I feel like going back to the closest color to my roots, I feel like I'm coming back home to myself and coming back home to who I am, and I feel good about that. So this is it. This was my decision to color my hair this color. And I like it. I don't mind it at all. I haven't had my own regular hair color since like wow, 20 2021. 2021? 2021. So 4 years. I have been dyeing my hair nonstop. So here we are. You guys will have to let me know what you think. So there have definitely been a little bit of drama this week that I really wasn't expecting. I have stayed away from this topic for a long time because I want to do right by my daughter. I really don't care about what anyone thinks. I do care about what my daughter thinks, and I do value her feelings, and I value what the things that she cares about. And so I've stayed away from this topic really because of her. And also because in my mind, I thought that I was doing a really good job of being nice and kind and friendly with this person. And this past week came out of nowhere. And some things were brought up in front of my daughter, which that is what drew the line. Because you can say whatever you want to me in front of me if you and me are together, but having my daughter present, hearing all these things, that sends me into like another dimension. I have never felt rage until I had a daughter. And if I've ever been put in a position where like I've had to feel like I have to defend her, or I don't like maybe what's being said about me in front of her, I kind of go a little crazy because like I said, I don't care what anyone thinks of me because I have grown so much, and I have taken ownership of my story in such a way that nobody can use it against me. Like no one can go and create a video or say something about me because I have been so open and honest ever since I started this podcast that one, it's been really healing for me to be like put that stuff out there and not have any shame around it. And two, I have taken so much ownership of who I am and like who I was, and gone through extremes to understand why I was how I was, and have grace and have love for that person that I was back then, that nothing that you can say or do or bring up about me, you can't hold it against me. You can't blackmail me with it, because I probably have already said it on my podcast, and two, I know exactly who I am and why I did what I did, and who I was, and even it's so crazy to me, because even at my most unhealed moments of my life, I was still the lighthouse, if you will, for people around me. Even at my most unhealed moments, I was still the brightest light in every room. And that's something that I was born with. And it's something that has been inside of me since I was a kid. Even when I was the most toxic. Even when I did things that I was ashamed of at some point, I was still the best person in the room. I was still the kindest with the best intentions, and you can't, like, no one can take that away from me. And so now that I'm aware of that, I've become so powerful. And it's it's the most it is the most relieving thing when you realize that you have all this power. And a lot of people, mostly people that are unevolved and unhealed and bitter, will hear me say this, and they would say, "Oh, she's so up her own ass. Oh, she's so selfish. She's so self-centered." And no, like, none of this is self-centered or conceited or any of that. It's just awareness. It's an awareness of, even when I was questioning my self-worth, and I did questionable things to myself and to other people, because I was in a dark place, because I was unhealed, because I was, living from a place of my subconscious that was not healed, and it was dark. Even then, I was still the breakthrough for other people. And let me explain what I mean by that. When I came into my daughter's father's life, he's always been bad news. He was always bad news. Okay? From when we were kids, growing up, he he almost had, like, my brother killed for something that he did. He's always been bad news. So you ask yourself, well, like, why would you even be with him? I was with him for 5 years. Why? Well, I obviously had a lot of trauma. And it's funny because his trauma and my trauma, very, very similar. So you can go back to my origin story and you can listen to that episode. And I'll tell you that a lot of things that happened to me happened to him. We have a lot of similarities growing up. Very similar. So life is about stories. Stories. All the stories. Life is about the stories, more importantly, the stories that we tell ourselves. The stories that we tell ourselves can destroy us or can make us the most powerful people on the planet. It is up to you what story you want to tell yourself. And the story that I was telling myself back then when I re-entered this person's life was that it was meant to be, because he was my first crush when I was 6, because our parents were friends before me and him were even born, because we grew up together, because I went this way and he went that way. And then at that point in time, when I re-entered his life, we had gone full circle. So it had to be that, that's the story that I told myself for 5 years. And I was very, very wrong, obviously. But that's the story that I told myself. I mean, when I first came to his house, reuniting at, and I think this was what, like, I don't know, 2012, when his mom opened the door to the house and she saw me, the first words out of her mouth were, "Oh my God, you are the angel with light that has come into this house to save me." That's what she said. Okay? That's what she said. So that stuck with me throughout the whole relationship, that his mom said that to me. And if you know about my origin story and you know about psychology and you know about the things that I've been through, you know that belonging, the need to feel seen, the need to feel like I was important to someone, that I was chosen by someone, all those things come up in my psychology. And so when she said that to me, I felt all of those things. And it's almost as if like I carried that throughout. Like I was like the important person that was going to change everything in this family's life. Okay. And we stayed together again 5 years. I'm not going to go into every single detail because, again, I want to respect my daughter and her feelings and her relationship with her dad. I have been nothing but kind and generous to this person, especially after I left him. Okay? Because it was important to me that that was the kind of relationship that we had. Even when I lived with him for a bit, because I lost my job and we were together and I lived with him and his family, I went crazy in that house. I went absolutely crazy because I am an empath, and the energy and the tension in that house that he has with his brother is insane. It was like I went into this deep, deep, deep depression in that house, and not coming from a very supportive family myself, I was like, well, at least I have people at this time. At least I have his family. But what I didn't realize, and all of this is in hindsight, obviously, okay? When I was going through it, I did not think of it. Obviously, I thought it was my fault. And that I was feeling all these feelings, and he made sure to tell me that it was my fault when he kicked me out of his house and I had to like find a place to live. I literally didn't know where I was going to go or what I was going to do because I had no job. I had nothing. But again, the universe and God have always had my back because I'm not a bad person. I've never have been. And so when he kicked me out, I literally had like hours to figure out like where I was going to go. But he made sure to let me know that the way I was feeling was my fault and not my environment. Hindsight, it was 100% my environment. His parents are pretty anxious and negative people. They're good. I'm not saying that they're bad people. I'm saying that the energy in the house was very dark, very tense, very not good for someone like me. It's not good for anyone, but when you're used to living a certain way, you don't notice it. And so that's the reason I left my mom's house when I was 18, because I knew that it was not conducive to me. I didn't know exactly why, but I knew that I needed to get out because it was not good. And so I had been living there and it was really bad. And he kicked me out. He's like, "You can't be here anymore. I need you to go." So I had to go. And so why it is that I felt like it was me, I didn't even like question it too much. I did feel like I can't believe that he's doing this at the time, but I did feel like it was me and I had some sort of something was wrong with me. So, fast forward to us now. I feel like we have done a really good job at maintaining a good relationship, cordial. We hang out. We spent Thanksgivings together. We spent Christmases together. We have traditions that we do with Briseis and all these things. And out of the blue, left field, like last week, this craziness pops up where he's basically bringing stuff up from the past, like when I left him in 2018, and he's bringing stuff up from the past in front of my daughter, which sent me spiraling, because I don't care if that's what you think on your own personal time. Obviously, you think about it because you brought it up. So that's cool. But in front of my daughter, you're going to say that? No, lies are not going to be told in front of my daughter. And so things escalated. And I basically said what I needed to say. And I felt complete peace. I was angry because he was saying these things in front of my daughter, and that's what sent me spiraling. But the things he was saying was not making me upset. And let me be honest, there's so many things that man has done to me. My first 6 months of my pregnancy were really good because he was here and I was in Miami. And when I moved here, he was awful to me. I mean, making comments about my body, what I looked like. I mean, that man didn't even buy a crib. Okay, when I moved to Colorado, I was living at his parents' house and I was working, and I would save every single paycheck. When I was a branch manager, and I was saving every single paycheck because I knew that when I moved here I wanted to like decorate and paint and this and that and all these things, what I do in every single house that I have ever lived in, all my apartments. Always, I would always save money or use my income tax or whatever to do those things, like to paint, to buy furniture, to make my house into a home. I've always done that. And so I did that, and I had the ability to do that because I was living with his parents before I moved here, and I was able to save every single paycheck. It was great, you know. My mom was the one who got all the baby stuff for me. Everything. Crib, car seat, bottles. I didn't have a baby shower. She got everything for me. Absolutely everything. Clothes. Anything and everything that I was going to need when my daughter was born was given to me by my mom and a little bit by his mom. That guy didn't drop a dime on his child when his child was born. Okay? A dime. When I moved here, I bought everything. They were living like boys live, okay? Bare minimum on like inflatable mattresses. And okay, I paid to myself to move here. He didn't even want me to come here, okay? Well, like I said, I'm not going to get into too many details, but I paid for everything to come here. I got mattress, bed, sofa, decorated. Go back into my Instagram. You guys could see it. Go back into my Facebook. You guys could see it. I made that house into a home. I built my daughter's crib. I painted him and me and his mom, who helped me paint my daughter's room, where her crib was. Like, I didn't do nothing. So when we moved twice. We first lived in a house, then we moved, and then we moved again. Okay? Now, given his business with his brother, which was growing and selling weed, his business with his brother paid for rent, electricity, food. Well, I was on food stamps because I wasn't working. So, well, we won't get into the semantics of all of it, but rent and electricity were definitely taken care of. Okay? When I left him, as a matter of fact, when I got here and I was about to give birth, like in July, I got here May 28th. In July, I remember crying and holding on to my belly and talking to my daughter and saying, I'm so sorry that I am bringing you into this mess, into this world, into this mess with this relationship. Because he had been so awful to me that in that moment, I knew that me and him weren't going to last. I knew it. I knew it in that moment. When I got here and him treating me the way that he did and saying the things that he did and like not even helping me with like the baby's crib, like all of these things, like of course his mom always defends him all the time. But I already knew in my heart that it wasn't going to work out. I knew it, but it was just a matter of time. I kept being in the relationship 3 years or 2.5 years after my daughter was born because I kept telling myself that story, right? Like, oh, it could work. We could figure something out. Something will change. The shit that you always tell yourself. The shit that you always tell yourself every single time, but your soul already knew the truth. And when you're pregnant, you're like psychic. I mean, when you're pregnant, like you have like extra powers when you're pregnant. And I already knew in July, my daughter was born in August, and in July, I already knew that me and him were not going to be together. But I kept mind fucking myself and I kept gaslighting myself into thinking that. And the gaslighting and the mind fucking lasted like 3 years because before I left him, I was sleeping in my daughter's room on a mattress on the floor. He was sleeping in our room and I was sleeping on the mattress on the floor in a different room for a few months. In his head, I left and got with someone like this right after. And although it was very quick, in literal terms, it was fast. Emotionally, I had been out of that relationship for a year before I actually left. I was gaslighting myself for about 2.5 years. And for a year after that, I was already out. My heart was out of it. My mind was out of it. I was gone. That's what men really don't understand because they're dumb. But when a woman is like emotionally out already, that's it. That's why in technical terms, I moved on pretty quick. It was because my heart was already out of it. I have never gotten over someone as fast as I did my daughter's father. It was very easy to get over him. Now, if you tell me in an ideal world where I can like go and pick things, just like you go and pick something out of a menu at a restaurant or whatever, would I have preferred for our family to stay together? Yeah, because of my daughter, because I didn't have that. My parents separated when I was like 3 or 4. And so yeah, that would have been nice. And I if that were possible in a perfect world, yes, that would be nice because like I said, of my daughter and because that's what I would want for her because I didn't have that. However, it is not a perfect world. And I went through a journey. As a woman, when you become pregnant, when you have that baby in your belly, you completely change. And if you don't, I don't know, there's something wrong with you. But for me, when my daughter was born, and I told you guys that I had like that panic attack, my insides were changing. My world was changing. Everything was changing. I started therapy. He started therapy because of me, first of all. And everything changed for me. So I was already out a year before I was actually out of that house. And so to him, in his head, it looks like I moved on really fast. But in reality, I had been out of that relationship from the moment I hugged my belly and cried to my daughter and asked her for forgiveness for bringing her into a relationship that I knew was awful. I was already out. I just kept gaslighting myself that it could work because of the history. And so when he was bringing up all this stuff this past week in front of my daughter, oh, first of all, let's throw some facts, okay? The opposite of love is not hate. When you hate someone, like you feel it, like you hate someone, that means that you still have feelings for them. That is not the opposite of love. The opposite of love is indifference. When you don't feel anything for that person, absolutely anything, okay? That is my feeling towards this man. I feel nothing. I don't feel hot and I don't feel cold. And I have felt that way for a really long time. It is the fastest I have ever gotten over a breakup ever was my daughter's father. It was like that. It had been happening for a long time, right? I was emotionally out of that relationship for a really, really long time. But when I moved out of that house and I physically separated from him, it was very fast. I was not mourning that relationship at all because I had been mourning it since I moved here in July of 2014. Okay? And so that shit came up and I was like, bro, this obviously you're still holding on to all this stuff from the past. I have not. I am telling you, you guys. That's why I haven't even talked about him on this or our story. You'll have to wait for the book to read the details on everything, okay? But that's why I've never really talked about it because it is so unimportant to me. Like what happened other than the stuff that like happened with my daughter, like my therapy and like how I started therapy and all that. Like other than that, like the things that happened between me and this man, the things that he did to me, the things that his family did to me, his brother, his mom, like none of those things matter to me because that's how over it I have been. And I guess it just took me by surprise when I heard him say these things out loud. I was like, oh, homeboy is still hurt, apparently. And like remembering things a little different than what they actually happened. Homeboy is still a little butthurt. And you know, how can't he not be? You want to know why? Because here's the truth. You can believe in this or not, okay? I am a life path 28. That is the number of generational wealth. That is the number of money. And look up Gary, the numbers guy. And he says that the cheat code to life is either have a child on the 28th and you'll always have money. Be born on the 28th, you'll always have money. Or be with someone, in a relationship with someone who is a 28th. Or have a parent that's a 20th. Someone around you that's a 28th. And here's the God's honest truth. When I walked into that man's life, it was miserable. Period. When his mom told me that when she opened the door, that was the truth. I am the light. I am the light. You want to know why? Here's an example. That guy was waiting for a check for months and months and months and months for something that I'm not going to talk about. But he was waiting for a check. I don't know what, 3-4 months after we started dating, maybe less than that, he got the check in the mail as soon as I walked into his life. First time he ever moved out, lived with a girl, was with me. Started making money at the airport. Then he got into that business with his brother. And when we were living here, that man has never touched that amount of money ever, ever again. Okay? His house was nice. His home was beautiful because of me. We were driving really nice cars. Okay? That man has never been that well off ever again. As soon as I left his life, what happened? Not just him. My ex-fiance, same thing. When I met him, had a piece of shit job, was living with a roommate. Okay? As soon as we got together, what happened? He got a better job, then he got a better job, and then he got his dream job that he's always wanted, making buku money. Because what? You think that it's a coincidence that all the good things that happened to these people that I was with happened to them when they were with me? You think that's a coincidence? No, sir. No, ma'am. Those are not coincidences, darling. That is the energy that I bring, that my soul has, that I have been encrypted with since I was born. Period. And I didn't know that about myself. Obviously, hindsight, I didn't know this. But I was giving away this light and dimming myself down because I so desperately wanted to be loved and chosen by someone. That's how sad I was. That's how desperate I was for love. When you as a child are not given love on a silver spoon, you will learn to lick it off of a knife. And that was me. So it is not a coincidence. Nothing. And yeah, you'll say, oh, money, whatever, it doesn't matter. Money's just money. That's poor people's mentality. People that say that money can't buy happiness or that money is not a big deal, that is unevolved thinking. Every person that I was with, their life was way better because I was in it. Because of the energy that my soul brings into a room. In Cuban, we call that H. Yo tengo mucho H. I was born with that. I was born with H. And that man's life was at its peak when I was with him. Period. Yes, our relationship was toxic. Yes, our relationship was not good. We're not talking about that. Toxicity and relationships not being good, that comes from traumas, that comes from childhood. We're not talking about that. We're talking about how circumstances in his life only got better when I came into the picture. The man was living with his parents. His mom was still washing his clothes and making his bed. He had never lived with anyone. Okay? Soon as I came into his life, it was Puerto Rico. It was, let's go to Disney World. Let's get an apartment. Got a job at the airport. Went into business with his brother. Lived on 11 acres. Making 10 to 20 G's a month. Like, that's not a coincidence. And I did not realize this about myself. I was always dimming myself and only being just enough because I didn't want to rock the boat. I didn't want to rock the boat, if you will. I remember, and you guys will laugh, I remember when I would go to my therapist, because at first we started going together as a couple, and then soon realized that we should be going separate. Like, he should go and I should go, and he should definitely go back. Let me tell you, if he's watching this, you need to go back to Deborah, babe. ASAP. ASAP. Because there's a lot of things you're holding on to that have long flown the coop, buddy. And I remember telling my therapist, like, I'm afraid of getting better. I'm afraid of getting better because if I get better, I think I might just leave him. I remember saying that. That poor girl, when I think about myself 10 years ago, that poor girl wanted to have love and wanted a relationship and wanted someone to choose her so badly that she was afraid of going to therapy and getting better because she knew that if she got better, she would not be in the relationship that she was in. So I I have so much power now. And I have detached myself from the past in a healthy way, in a way where now everything makes sense. And now that I know that just me being in someone's life as a friend, as a lover, as a parent, whatever, just my presence has a positive effect. And now that I know that, I don't give it out easily. I don't give it out almost at all. We had a conversation last episode where one of my best friends is ChatGPT, CG, because I have been going through this journey where I haven't purposely isolated myself, but it's just the awareness of me, my person, who I am, and how I think and my intentions, that isolation is what has happened because people that come around the only people that will be allowed in my energy are the people with the same kind of intentions and the same kind of thought process as me. And so I know there's not too many of us out there. And so that's why I think that the universe has isolated me. For my healing, of course, because that's when you do your most healing, is in isolation. But because of that. And I had no idea that this man was still carrying all these things. I should have known. I should have known because the last 2 times I have gone to him to give him some sort of good news about me, I can tell that this person was not genuinely happy for me. And for me, I want nothing but the best for him. I mean, I want him to like fall in love and find like his match. I want him to find the woman of his dreams. I want him to have like 3 or 4 more babies. I want nothing but the good from the best for him. Because his happiness will bring happiness to my daughter. And that's what he doesn't understand. He thinks that me and my daughter are separate from each other. He wants to be a mom so bad, but he can't, obviously. He's a fucking guy, and he... Anyway. My daughter and me will never be separate from each other. She was inside my body. And anything that harms her harms me, and anything that harms me harms her. Listen to this, gentlemen. Listen to this. If you love your kids, the best thing that you could do for your kids is love their mother. That's the best thing you could do. If you love your children, if you actually give a shit about your children, and you're not selfish, and you care about your child more than you care about you, which I know he does. I know he doesn't. I can tell he doesn't by his actions. But if you care about your kids more than you care about yourself and love them, love their mom. Care about their mom. Be excited for their mom. Want the best for their mom. In 5 minutes, last week, in 5 minutes, I understood that this person does not have my best interest at heart, is bitter, is still holding on to the past, might possibly still be in love with me. Because if you don't love a woman, she cannot make you mad. If you have no feelings for someone, they can't spark any kind of feeling inside of you. So within these 5 minutes, the universe has revealed to me who this person truly is. And so I've had to put up some boundaries since then. I had a conversation with my daughter about it, of course. And I feel fine. I have no problem with that. I am thankful that I finally got the truth. Because again, I was trying to maintain a nice friendship because, I don't have family out here. I've told you guys that. I don't have friends out here. And so it's nice to have someone, especially that if you think that that person also has the same feelings for you of friendship and wanting the best for you and all these things. Like, it's nice. It was nice to come home and go pick up my daughter and be like, hey, this great thing happened to me. And I should have known, by his reaction the first time that this person doesn't really care. What was it that he said to me? He said, well, how does that affect me? When I told him the second great news that just happened a few weeks ago, he was like, I'm like, aren't you excited? And he's like, for what? Like, how does that affect me? That has nothing to do with me. And I'm like, dude, like, it affects your daughter, like, it affects you, it affects us. Like, we are always going to be connected, whether we want to or not. Like, we are this little unit. How can you not be excited? And he's like, oh, listen, I should have known. But again, I like to see the best in people especially in him, because I know what it means to my daughter when we're together or when we spend time together. I know what it means to her, so that's why I do it. And I was okay with that, and it was nice. But I realized after the things that were said that this person does not like me at all. They they have they have their own perspective on what happened to them during a certain time, which I can understand. I can understand the way it looked like on the outside to him. I get it. But just because that was his perspective, it doesn't mean that it was the truth of what happened. There was so much more to it than just the surface level stuff. And so I realized that this person does not like me, does not really wish me well. And I have been doing so much healing and so much growing and so much like cutting out of all that bullshit that I was like, no, honey, no, no, no. We're not doing that. So it was a big realization. It really was. And again, it's just part of this healing, part of this journey, part of me leveling up. And I just know that God, the universe, source, my angels, my spirit guides, my ancestors, my whole crew that I have, that's like right here, all of them. There's just something bigger for me, way bigger for me in store. I know that in my gut, I know that in my bones. I know that in my soul. And I am so grateful that I started this podcast because I used to be ashamed. I used to be scared of what people thought. And most people are like that. Even, I mean, I would say like 95% of people really care of how they're perceived in the world and how people perceive them and what people think about them. I do not. I used to be like that, but not anymore. And I am not ashamed of any part of my story. There's still things that I haven't even shared with you guys. And it's so nice that I can come on here and talk and be so open about my story and not be afraid of it, because there's nothing that anyone can hold over my head. Nobody can be like, oh, you said this about me, so I'm gonna make sure that everyone knows about this. It's like, I think I talked about that in episode 2, bro. You're too late. Like, there's no shame. There's no shame. And it's just about like, it's about owning my story, owning me, owning who I am. And I am so grounded and so rooted in who I am that nothing can faze me. Absolutely nothing can faze me. Like, it's so sad because honestly, I was so in my masculine energy for such a long time that now I look back and I'm like, I dated women. They were all women, except they weren't women, they were men, but they were bitches. All of them. Like, literally. That's how in my masculine I was my entire life, that I just attracted like these feminine males that like, it is just crazy to me that some of these things were said, and I haven't been with you since 2018. Let's count together, okay? 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. 8 years. 8 years. And you have still not been able to find it in your life to forget about it, let it go, get to know the new me, and maybe like even like me as a friend. No, bro. The version that he has in his head has died. That girl is no longer alive. And that is just, but that's like kind of a lot of people, right? Like, his mentality is kind of like, you know what he reminds me of? I used to tell this to my therapist all the time. I used to say, he reminds me of, like my mom and my brother. And they say that. They say that like when you don't heal your trauma, the relationships that you get into, whether they're friendships or romantic relationships, will mimic that of the parents or of your siblings, or like wherever the trauma came from as a child, your relationships will mimic that in your platonic relationships or your romantic relationships. And I used to tell that to my therapist all the time. I used to be like, man, he just like, being around him makes me feel like I'm around my mom and my brother. That should have been my first red flag. And it's so funny because one time, Mercedes, when she was younger, she told me, she was like, Mommy, are you sure that Abuela Cari, which is my mom, she's like, are you sure that Abuela Cari is not my dad's mom? Because they are literally like the same person. Anxious and overthinking everything and like health nuts, like crazy, like they don't eat like absolutely anything and always telling people what they need to do and what's not good and what they shouldn't eat and what they should do, and like negative, and always the worst thing is gonna happen, and like that is this person. I mean, if you ask him, he's cautious. He is like, and it's just silly. It's so sad. But not my monkey, not my circus. It really does not make a difference to me. I literally am willing to do absolutely anything for my daughter's happiness. Anything. And so if it makes her happy, I will do it, whatever it is. And what I thought I was doing was building a friendship with someone that I know she loves and cares for. And I know that if I love and care for that person also, I'm only doing good for her. He is not separate from her either. That's her dad. So if I am cultivating a relationship of care and warmth and whatever with this person, that's only going to be good for her. That's my mentality. Obviously, not his. So we had to make some boundaries and standing firm. I am happy that what happened, because it just made me kind of go back into my history and remind myself, say, hey, like, you were definitely the light in every relationship, because every person that you were with got better because of you. Just being around them. Even when I wasn't good, I was still making people around me better. I have been people's breakthroughs. I am definitely a mirror, and I believe that. I think we all are mirrors to each other, But in my relationship, I definitely was a mirror and a breakthrough for a lot of these men, because they were for sure lost. Just the pure fact that I carried your child and brought the best thing in the world to this world, you should be like kissing my ass, kissing my feet. Because no other girl would have been stupid enough to fucking do what I did. And thank God I did, because honestly, my daughter, like, I believe with every part of my soul and my body that that child, my daughter, was brought into this world for me. For me. She's mine. She was brought into this world for the purpose of my growth, my changing, my soul's evolution. I believe that from the tip of my head to the tip of my fingers to the tip of my toes. I believe that 100%. But, you know, bitter baby daddies. What can I say? I'd be bitter too. I mean, hello. My hopes for the future are that we can come, together in some sort of a more amicable way. But there will always be boundaries up now that I know what's going on the inside. And I hope my daughter is older now, and so hopefully we won't damage her too much. I take my job as a mom really seriously, and I know that you can't be perfect. Like, your kids are always going to have some sort of residue from their childhood, no matter how good it was, or no matter how much you try to keep things from being too traumatic for them. There's always some residual, and when that comes up, obviously I'll deal with it. I've worked too hard to change who I am and my feelings and my person to let that happen. So she'll always have me. She'll always have someone that will be honest with her and doesn't gaslight her like some people do, and doesn't bullshit her, because she's smart. She's smart, man. She knows what's up. And although she loves and cares for her family, which she does because she has a kind heart, and I know that she loves and cares for her family, she knows what's up. She knows. She knows what's up. And that's enough for me. That's what started all of this. Is that you're not gonna come and talk shit in front of the only person in the world that I actually give a fuck about their opinion. There's one person's opinion that I care about, and that's my daughter. I care about what she thinks of me. I care about what she thinks about her relationship with me. She's the only person that I care about. And you're not going to come and talk lies in front of her about me. So that's the only reason why I even said anything. If it would have been one-on-one in a room, I probably just would have walked away. Would have been like, yeah, okay, sir, whatever you have to say. But the only reason why is because of her. You're not going to spread lies and talk bullshit in front of my kid. Who does that? Who pokes, and that's another thing about me too. I don't want problems with nobody. I don't want problems. What is that? There's a TikTok. I made a TikTok on this, and it's so true. I don't want a problem with nobody. I don't ever want a problem. But if somebody wants a problem, I say no problem. You can't corner me. You can't corner a tiger. You can't like poke a tiger over and over again, or like poke them and expect them not to come back at you. Who does that? Like, you're crazy. You know what I mean? And so I'm just glad that I have this platform to be able to talk and get things off my chest. It's been really healing to be so open and honest about my life and my story. Like, the book is going to be great. I mean, it's going to be insane. Okay, the book is going to be great. The series is going to be even better. And it's just been so healing for me to be so open and honest about myself. It feels like I'm free. It feels like before, people could tell me lies about myself and I would believe them. That people could tell me things about myself and I would believe them. That is how broken down I was and how desperate I was for approval and love and security. I was so broken down that someone could tell me a lie about myself and I would believe it. And now, after going through what I've been through, after going to therapy for so long, after having a million breakdowns, after all the craziness that I have been through, no one can tell me anything about myself because no one is me. And I know myself so well that it's almost like it's insane that it was ever any other way. It's insane to me that I was ever any other way than how I am right now. So sure of me and who I am and what I want and the intentions that I have and my thoughts. Like it there's no bullshitting me anymore. And so when people from my past, which is why I've cut off so many people from my past, try to throw a little fishing line to kind of reel me back in to that place, I can just identify it and I can just see it. And I'm like, I'm not falling for that, bro. I'm not falling for your recollection of how the story went. It's just not going to happen. And I hope that you guys can go through that same kind of realization when you look back and you realize that you were never the problem, even when you were the problem. I think that's what I've realized out of all of this, that even at my most toxic moments, most unhealed moments, because I was just so desperate for acceptance from someone and love from someone, even when I did things that I probably shouldn't have done, or feeling sorry for myself and just wanting someone to love me, even when I was there, which was like the lowest I was still the best thing that had ever happened to anyone that I had come in contact with. Because under all that stuff, under all that trauma and all that mess, I was still pure in my intentions. Makes me have a lot of empathy for myself and a lot of grace and a lot of love for myself. So, yeah, crazy week. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. I'm glad that I'm back in front of the camera. It was nice. It was really nice to sit here after every recording, like after, even if I'm not feeling it too much when I first start recording, by the time I'm done recording my podcast, I always feel great. I always feel so good. I always feel so happy and like relieved, and like I just feel like lighter after I've done these podcasts, which is why I know that I am doing the right thing. So thank you guys for being here. And as I always say, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. The lessons will definitely find you. This is Life Vetted. Until next time.